South America is an enormous continent, stretching approximately 7,500 kilometers from its most northern point at Punta Gallinas in Colombia to its southernmost point, Cape Horn in Chile. The continent is home to some of the largest countries in the world and some of the most diverse landscapes on the planet. From the dense jungles of the Amazon rainforest to the arid Atacama Desert, the Caribbean vibes of northern Colombia to the high-altitude mountain towns of the Andes. Many large cities are also dotted across this giant landmass, but only one of them can claim the title of being the world's southernmost city, and that honor falls to Ushuaia, which sits on the shores of the Beagle Channel on the island of Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. This was the culmination of our journey through South America and the final stop on our trip through Argentina, and we were excited to see what the end of the world had to offer.
If you're new here, we're Kitty and John, and we love to travel and experience new cultures. Whether we're getting our nature fix on the high-altitude hiking trails of the Andes Mountains or an adrenaline rush paragliding over the turquoise waters of the Turkish Riviera, our passion for travel never seems to fade. We've been exploring the South American continent for some time now and have really fallen in love with the place and the people, so make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content from this incredible part of the world. As we said, Ushuaia is located on the southern coastline of the island of Tierra del Fuego. It has its own airport and you can fly directly there from Buenos Aires. But if, like us, you're traveling overland, the only way to access the island is via a ferry across the Strait of Magellan. The ferry takes you across the narrowest section of the strait in Chile and is definitely not the most scenic ferry ride we've ever been on. The crossing takes roughly 30 minutes and then you'll need to pass through border control a little later into the journey as you enter back into Argentina. When we eventually arrived in Ushuaia a few hours later, it really did feel like we were arriving into a city at the end of the world. On the shores of the Beagle Channel and framed by jagged, snow-capped mountains in front and behind, the scenery surrounding the city is breathtaking. The city rises upwards from the shores of the channel, so that if you get high enough, you will get amazing views down over the area below. Ushuaia is a light industrial port city but a major tourist destination, both for being the southernmost city in the world and providing access to the nearby Tierra del Fuego National Park, and also for being one of the 5 internationally recognized gateway cities to Antarctica, as it sits only 1,100 kilometers away from the Antarctic Peninsula. We always saw many cruise ships docked at the port during our stay in the city, both the larger variety that you would normally associate with a cruise and the smaller expedition ships waiting to take intrepid tourists to the southernmost continent. Ushuaia itself is a nice city to walk around, and not just because of the amazing views you get as you walk along the waterfront. There are many cafes, restaurants, souvenir shops, and tour companies lining the main street of the city, and street art covers many of the walls if you keep an eye out for it. But one of our favorite things to do was to walk down to the waterfront and stroll along the Malecon towards the Ushuaia sign. Along the way, we passed the iconic St. Christopher boat, which has been beached on the rocks in the bay since 1957 and has survived the elements over the years to become synonymous with Ushuaia's coastline. A little further along the bay, we came to the giant Ushuaia sign where you can take some fun pictures and get great views back to the city and mountains beyond.
There are many activities you can do from Ushuaia, including boat tours out onto the Beagle Channel, where you can spot plenty of wildlife like penguins, seals, and even whales if you're lucky. These tours will also often include a quick stop to the famous lighthouse, which sits on a small island in the middle of the Beagle Channel and is one of the more popular tourist attractions around the city. Other than the boat tours though, there's plenty to do on the mainland surrounding the city. We felt like the easiest and most cost-effective way for us to get around was to hire a car for a few days. What with the roads being in mostly good condition, we opted just for a small little Toyota, which served us absolutely fine for all of our excursions during our stay. On our first day with the car, we drove out to Tierra del Fuego National Park to the west of Ushuaia, where the road was compacted dirt for the most part, but in good condition. Another very popular way to get into the park is via the Ferrocarril Austral Fueguino, otherwise known as the End of the World train. Originally built as a freight line to serve the prison of Ushuaia, it now operates as a heritage railway, taking tourists into the national park and is considered the southernmost functioning railway in the world. welcome to the end of the world, guys.
Yeah, Tierra del Fuego National Park.
We're down in the car park right near the very end of the road. Fin de carretera in Argentina. There's no more roads after this. I think it's prime time for all the tours.
Oh yeah, I think we didn't time this very well. You might want to come earlier or later, because I think around lunchtime is the prime time for buses to arrive and the tours are just coming in and out.
But what you can do if you do arrive around this time, there is a hike up to a mirador you can do, which a lot of the tours, they just literally come down to take a picture with the sign that tells you that you're at the end of the road. So we're going to do a little walk up to a mirador, which is very quiet, as you can see. Hopefully when we come back, there won't be as many people around.
I think going on the hike definitely paid off. It is so much quieter now.
It's crazy.
I mean, there are people obviously, but it's nowhere near as busy as it was like an hour ago.
All of the tour buses have gone now, so the walkways are so much quieter. So definitely try and avoid coming around 10-11 a.m. If we were to make you guess exactly where we are right now, I guarantee you would not guess the very bottom of the world in Ushuaia. It's more like Scotland. If you were to take Scotland and plonk it down and attach it to this area of the world, it would be very, very similar. I think you're going to the very far end of the earth, but it's actually very like your backyard at home.
After strolling around the walkways, we hiked down the short La Baliza trail that begins at the walkways themselves and follows the marine coastline down to a quiet and peaceful pebble beach. Then we headed back to the car and drove up the road to the Laguna Negra trail, which is a very short hike up to the Black Lagoon. It's a nice easy trail, but not one we would say is a must-do in the national park. After that, we drove up to the shores of Roca Lake, where we could get some incredible views from the beach before walking a little way along the Ito 24 trail that follows the shoreline.
So this track next to Lago Roca splits, and you can take either two options. You can keep going this way following the lake, which is like another 3 or 4 kilometers, I think. Or you can do the Guanaco trail up to Cerro Guanaco, which is probably the hardest trail in the park and the furthest. Goes to the top of the hill that's always been in the background of all our shots, which is about 6k up and 6k down, so it's quite long as well. Almost 1,000 meters of elevation. Definitely one to commit a whole day to if you are going to do that. Whereas this, probably just half a day or maybe even less. Honestly, I don't think the views are going to get too much different the further we go up there, so we're probably going to stop here, head back to the visitors center.
We got some nice views from the visitors center and had a wander around its various rooms, housing exhibits about the national park, before driving back towards the park entrance and down to our final stop at the post office at the end of the world. This was the southernmost post office in South America, and the only place further south you could send or receive mail from was the museum and post office on Goodyear Island in Antarctica. The exterior of the post office is covered with stamps and stickers from travelers from across the world, and you used to be able to go inside and send postcards from here, although at the time of our visit they didn't seem to be operating anymore and everything was boarded up. Still, there's nice views out to the channel from here, which we enjoyed before heading back to town.
So today we're heading in the other direction from Tierra del Fuego, so we're going east out of Ushuaia rather than west, and there's a bunch of different viewpoints and some hikes you can do along the way. We're only going to be doing the one hike up to this laguna called Laguna Esmerelda, and it's about a 9-kilometer there and back hike. Should take 3 to 4 hours maybe. It's supposed to be very, very pretty up there. It's quite a popular hike to do in Ushuaia because it is quite an easy one. It's quite a muddy hike though. As you can see, if it was raining a lot during your stay here, probably it's going to be a very, very muddy trail.
Luckily it's not been raining too much since we've been here, so hopefully it won't turn into a Tayrona National Park hike like we did in Colombia, which was a disaster.
I'd rather keep my boots on today.
Yeah.
The path steadily climbed up to the lagoon, always providing us beautiful views of the valley around us and the mountains in front. As the name suggests, the lagoon is a beautiful emerald colour, however we never really got to see it at its best as the sun remained hidden during our time up there. We walked around the lagoon and enjoyed the views before heading back to the car.
Overall, it's a really nice, easy kind of hike. One steep section, but it's very, very popular with, I think, tourists and locals. Very, very easy to get to from Ushuaia and not too much effort to walk either. And of course, it's also free, which is great. Honestly, like compared to the walks we did in Tierra del Fuego National Park, I would say it's probably the best one we've done here in Ushuaia. Now, we didn't do the big long one up to the top of the mountain in Tierra del Fuego. That might have been pretty epic, but just on our experience, this hike is definitely worth doing over some of the hikes in the actual national park.
From there, we headed further east away from Ushuaia and climbed up to Passo Garibaldi, where there's a lookout point offering amazing views down to Lago Escondido and the enormous Lago Fagnano beyond. Then we turned around and drove back towards Ushuaia, stopping at the Husky Park along the way. This park is undoubtedly more popular in the winter month when you can go husky sledding, but they are open even in the summer month, and we were able to spend about an hour with the adorable huskies and even got a chance to see some of the newborn puppies nuzzling with their mother. Our final stop on the way back to Ushuaia was at the Mirador del Valle Carbajal, which provided us with a stunning overview of the valley and the mountains in the distance.
Whilst perhaps not being as spectacular in its scenery as other places in Patagonia that we'd visited, such as Los Glaciares National Park in Argentina or Torres del Paine in Chile, Ushuaia is still located in a really beautiful area, and the knowledge that there really isn't that much more south of you until you hit the continent of Antarctica really makes you feel just how isolated you actually are. It's a worthy destination in its own right, but let's be honest, that knowledge that you are so close to Antarctica, seeing all of the last-minute cruise deals being advertised all across the city, and seeing the expedition boats docked out in the port, when will we ever be this far south again? We had always dreamed of visiting the White Continent, and we were never going to be as close as we were while staying in Ushuaia. It really came down to a case of, if not now, then when? In the end, the temptation was just too great, and we ended up booking a last-minute cruise deal to Antarctica. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our most incredible and life-changing adventure to date. See you in Antarctica.